Hello viewers, SuperGT here. Welcome to the new Tokyo Expressway circuit in Gran Turismo Sport. So this was added as part of the December update 1.31. We actually have two configurations, south inner loop and outer loop, and we're racing around the inner loop today, which is actually the shorter, the longer of the two, just over 4 miles in length. Interesting track this, and actually when I first heard that they were going to add a Tokyo street circuit to the game, I thought, oh, we've already got a couple of those, and I was hoping for something else. But after playing it quite a lot, I think this track is actually a very good circuit. I actually really enjoy this track, and the layout kind of lends itself to close racing. You've got lots of long straights and lots of sharp corners with big braking zones. That lends itself to good racing. You see it at Baku, it's like a street circuit but tight, but then you've got a really long straight with a big braking zone and people can overtake because of that. Into turn 2, and the Huracan from pole position has just binned himself immediately. So it's good to see that there wasn't actually everyone driving the Volkswagen. And you've got a Mustang here. So actually on the grid, 2 of the top 3 were not Volkswagens. One was a Mustang, one was the Huracan. But already we're a man down as the Huracan just goes flying into the wall at turn 2. But that's easily done. It's a very big braking zone, and he was under threat from behind. He had to brake a little bit later, but obviously misjudged it. So this is the next of the long straights. Obviously it's not straight at all, but it is completely flat out, and this makes this track very interesting. You're coming down this long straight and then you're into a very tight hairpin here, and it is very much a choke point because you have the pit lane entry. You can just see on the left hand side there, it goes underneath that building. It's a really unusual braking zone into a pit lane, very unusual pit lane. But I suppose it's something different. And also something very weird about this track is the fact that the pit lane, as we just went past there, is not on the start-finish straight. So we're coming around the last couple of corners here. So this is the penultimate turn here, this right-hander. As you then sweep back over to the right side to go around this left-hander, that's the final turn of the circuit. So now we're on the main straight. And of course the pit lane was about 40 seconds further back, so it's a weird layout, very different indeed. And you see here in lean setting 6 temporarily there. So this race, of course, Daily Race C always brings an element of fuel saving or tyre saving, or both in this case. So at the moment, firmly in the slipstream of the guy ahead, and temporarily in the lean setting. So I'm going to try and save as much fuel as possible in order to have a better pit stop, or a shorter pit stop. Save some time in that pit window. Of course, you can go straight to the end of the race. If you really heavily fuel save, you can get to the end of the race without having a pit stop, but I don't think that's the best strategy because we saw the pit lane is very short. You don't lose much time here at all by going for a pit stop. Very, very short pit lane. As soon as you go in that the tunnel, you're pretty much at your pit box, and then pretty much you're straight coming out of the pit lane already. So you really don't lose much time at all. So that's something to think about when deciding your strategy around the circuit. And something else is the slipstream, which is very important. It is very important in Gran Turismo, but it's especially important around this track because of the nature of the really long straights. If you can just stick behind someone, as I was doing to the Mustang earlier this lap, or on lap 1, if you can just stick right into their slipstream, get them to suck you along really hard. Just whack down the power setting down to a leaner setting. You can save fuel without actually losing much time. So that's something to consider. And at this point here, unfortunately, I'm not quite within range. Tommy Concrete there in second is 1.2 seconds ahead. I need to be within about 0.6, and then I'll be within the suck zone. So at this point here, not quite close enough. I am going to kind of try to follow him, but it's not really going to do anything. Let's cross the line. 55.9, decent lap there. Tommy Concrete in second with 55.8, so within a tenth of that, and presumably the leader lapping very much the same as well. So at this point here, I would imagine that Tommy Concrete is happy to sit behind in second. In fact, in many ways, second can be the better place to be on this game because of the fuel saving. You can just sit behind, save as much fuel as you like, because you're getting pulled along in the slipstream, and then just have a much shorter pit stop, and then you do all the work in the second phase of the race by pulling away. At this point here, the gap's still 1.2. There's not much I can do to really catch up. I'm just kind of hoping that I make a mistake, get a penalty. The penalties are really strong around the circuit. If you hit the wall even a bit hard, you know, instant 5 seconds. It is absolutely savage and brutal. So do not hit the walls. That is something to be avoided. I mean, you kind of know that. I would imagine you know that. You know, when you're racing, don't hit the wall. That's kind of obvious, really. But yeah, especially around this track, it's especially harsh. Slaps you with the 5 seconds if you do that. And of course, around that industrial corner, the 270-degree turn, it gives you penalties around there too. So the leader actually going in early, end of lap 3, he has 56% of fuel there, and I had about 58 or 59. So I've saved a little bit more, but it remains to be seen exactly how much Tommy Concrete has saved. I'd imagine he has saved more than what the leader has, because by virtue of being behind, as we've mentioned, we can sit behind, save a lot more fuel, and as I've said, very important around this track. So coming up towards the start line, there it is, the end of lap 3 officially, and into turn 1. There's a big shadow that goes across the track halfway through that turn, and you can pretty much start accelerating on that shadow. It's a good visual reference for that turn, actually. So into the industrial estate, or the dockland. So this is where you can get penalties also. So you see the white lines here with the curbs on the ground painted on. If you go beyond the lines, all 4 wheels, you get a penalty. So that's something to definitely think about. You don't want to do that. So it is worth making sure you get your line right to not get that penalty. A little bit wide through that turn as we enter this back straight. And actually the Italian behind, I haven't really noticed. He's kind of he's displaced the Mustang from 4th, or into 4th, and now he's into 3rd. He's actually firmly in my slipstream now. You see him as we just look behind there. And as we come up towards the pit lane, I'm going to go defensive here. I don't want him to get past just before we get to the pit stop. So breaking on the 150 board, there it is. And we're going to take a slightly quicker line as we go into the pit lane. There it is, a really awkward entry. Quite unusual, but I quite like it. So I've actually saved 5% more fuel. That is a view of Chewy D, who was the race leader before he went in a lap ago. And I'm going to underfuel here. I'm going to underfuel the car. And you see, we're just going to come out here. I'm right behind Tommy Concrete. Chewy D's just going to come flying past. And he has regained the lead. Only just slotting in back ahead of Tommy Concrete. So we're pretty much as we were. Although, by virtue of underfueling the car, you can see how much I've gained. I was about 1.2 seconds behind. Now, under half a second, I'm within the slipstream range. This is exactly what I was trying to do. So I could have gone for the normal kind of amount of fuel, and I would have been a couple of seconds behind, or a second behind, and I wouldn't have been in that slipstream range. But now, firmly within the slipstream range, but I do have to fuel save quite a lot in the second half of the race. In fact, I'm going to have to fuel save very heavily. And actually, Chewy D and Tommy fighting heavily through turn 1. There was contact involved. And actually, we're not actually in the lead here. This is technically going to be the lead battle. But we still have 2 guys ahead who haven't pitted. You can see them there, the Aston Martin and the Volkswagen. And then we have the Italian who was just behind us. He hasn't pitted either. So he's probably going to go in at the end of this lap. So Tommy Concrete goes a little bit deep. There could have been a move on there, but he actually recovers, goes quite wide. And now Chewy D with the penalty, 1.2 seconds. So I couldn't quite see where he cut the track there, but he did. And he's been slapped with a penalty. So we're in with a shout here. This race is getting very interesting now, as we have some traffic to contend with, technically traffic. I mean, they might not pit, but they may well pit at the end of this lap. So we don't want to lose too much time here. Of course, the Italian, who was behind us, he's just coming up towards that final hairpin now. And he's all going to get quite congested here. I'm going to go to the left-hand side. The space was there. Tommy Concrete is actually going to grind into the wall, lose momentum on the right-hand side. Can I got the inside of him and the Aston Martin? It looks like I can. I'm going to go a little bit deep. The Aston Martin pulls to the left, as does the other Volkswagen, into the pit lane. And Chewy D's just going to bin himself on the exit. Oh man, I've gone from 6th to 1st in the space of about 5 seconds. How has that happened? That's absolutely crazy. So I was up behind that battle of 4 cars, and then of course the Italian goes into the pit lane. So I've gained on the Italian. Tommy Concrete went a little bit wide, got past him and the Aston Martin. The other Volkswagen went into the pit lane as well. and then Chewy D just bins himself. Oh man, he must be kicking himself right now. He was in the lead, in control of the race, and then just completely throws it away. He's down in 5th position now with a massive time loss. So now the dynamic of the race has changed massively. I'm under-fueled. At this point here, 2.7 laps of fuel remaining when there's actually about 2.9 laps left. So I'm still going to have to fuel save at this point. Sitting in setting 2, I'm trying to save. It's a weird dynamic because I have to save fuel but also keep this guy behind. There is a choice I could make. It might even be better just to let this guy through, you know, not slow down let him through, but just don't fight him if he goes for the move, and then just sit in the slipstream. Sit in the slipstream, save more fuel. At this point now I'm fairly comfortable. I feel as though I can fuel save while in front, and as long as he stays behind, then I'm kind of okay. So I'm sitting in lean setting 2, and he's not really challenging me at this point here. This isn't the best place to go for a move. It does, because of the nature of the curving straight, which makes no sense, but as this kind of section here curves a little bit from left to right and then right to left, it doesn't always lend itself to a great overtaking opportunity. I'm going to go defensive here, so force him to the left hand side. There he is. Hit my marker, hit the 150 board, and then hit the apex, and there's not much he can do. That's a textbook defence as we resume in the lead. I'm just scanning behind there. The Italian who was quickly converging on me before I went into the pit lane, he is actually converging again, so this may well be a 3-way battle for the lead within a lap or so. So this is not going to be easy. I have to defend from not just one person but 2 as we come towards the latter stages of the race, and we're on the latter stages of lap 6 through the final turn. We've got a nice bullet train on the right hand side there. We're actually going to beat it for pace as we come across the line to begin lap 7. 3/4 of the race is done, and as I cross there, 1.9 laps of fuel remaining, so I'm still a little bit short. Obviously with 2 laps remaining I need 2 laps of fuel, so 0.1 short, so I still need to save some here. And ideally you want something that you don't want to have to fuel save in the last lap when the battle really gets intense. So I'm going to have to try and save a little bit more here. So I'm going to let him through. I'm not going to fight that one. And I'm going to sit in his slipstream and try and save a little bit more on lap 7, and then perhaps launch an assault on lap 8. Not literally an assault, hopefully. So I don't really fancy getting a penalty or bottling it. You can see at this point here, sitting in setting 3, setting 2. So I can just sit right behind him, he can do all the legwork, I can save all the fuel, and then we can do Basil on guard on lap number 8 of 8. So you can see here, again, changing that fuel setting from 3 up to 4 temporarily. And as I am right on him, into 6th for a while, for a couple of seconds here I can put in fuel setting 6, so maximum saving here as we come through the straight. And then as we come towards the hairpin, I want to be in setting 1 on the way out. I don't want to lose time on the way out. That's where you can really lose time, by having a leaner setting. So going through the hairpin, we'll be right on him. We actually make a bit of contact. He does really well there to actually keep the car under control. You see just how easy it is to spin the car. Chewy D understands that, unfortunately for him. So 1.2 laps of fuel remaining. We have the red text of death, of doom. I tried to say both words at the same time there. Death and doom, as we come towards the final turn of the penultimate lap. So here we go then, 1 lap to go. In his slipstream, I'm going to really try to launch an assault here. 1 lap of fuel remaining as we cross the line here. 13% of fuel, which I still need to save a tiny bit on this lap. In fact, I just changed to 0.9. So I do need to save a little bit more, otherwise I will not be making it to the end of the race. So tucked into that slipstream, are we going to launch an assault here, or it might actually be better to go for a bit later in the lap? And actually the Italian is right on us, so he has converged the top 3 within a second on the last lap. So great racing here. This track really promoting good racing, as I've said earlier in the video. Long straights, sharp corners, it just lends itself to great racing, especially with the slipstream on this game. The nature of the slipstream just really lends itself to bringing people closer together, which is quite suitable for Christmas time, I suppose. You can spend some quality time together, sucking each other along on these long straights. Okay, so onto this back straight now. I've just been dropped a little bit, but I am going to recover. still within that magical buffer of 6/10, and now you can see it just beginning to gain. I do need to fuel save a little bit, or are we going to go for the move? I'm lifting off the throttle, so I'm still saving some fuel, although I've only got 4% at this point, really not much. He's going to go to the right hand side. Here's the Italian poking in. As we go into the hairpin, the Italian goes a little bit deep, and by a little bit I mean a lot. He's gone way too deep, and he's going to temporarily take the lead with a relinquish it immediately. So with 3% of fuel, or now 2%. And when it says 2%, that's actually 3%, because on 0 you've still got that percent to do. So he's got 0.0 of a penalty, so he has actually still got to slow down before the line, otherwise that will round up to 1 second. He hits the wall. I'm actually on 0% fuel here. As we come up towards the final turn, is it going to be enough? As this is the final corner of the race, I'm coming through. I'm actually going to lose all momentum. I've run out of fuel with about a couple of 100 metres left to go. And oh my god, that race could have gone either way. I could have won it, but now am I actually going to keep third against the Mustang? Just about less than a tenth between us as we cross the line. But oh my god, that was such a good race. Right to the end, I suppose. I mean, obviously looking back in hindsight, I could have put a little bit more fuel in and I would have seen myself through to the end. Ultimately, I really enjoyed the race. You may wonder what happened to this Huracan at the start. Got himself a 5-second penalty there. Well, this is what happened from his view now. Going into the turn, he just braked on the 100 board, which is actually way too late for that turn. Hits the wall, gets himself a 5-second penalty. At this point, he could still recover. You can see he's right behind us, not too far. And actually, the Italian comes in here. They make contact. And on the way out, he just gets a bit of a spin, gets a helping hand from the Spaniard, and he's round. He's gone from first to last. You hate to see it. Sorry, Halbstark, if you're watching, but had to show it. Goes from pole position to last within a third of a lap. But there you go. There are the results. An amazing race. Shame that we couldn't win, but that's coverage of the new Tokyo Expressway circuit. Really good track. Really enjoyed it, and hopefully we have more tracks like this in the future. But that is the end of the video. I do hope you enjoyed it as always, guys. Let me know your thoughts. And if you're new, do consider subscribing. But that's it for me today. Thank you so much for watching. I shall see you next time. Goodbye.